What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. Now, while it's not breaking news, as this news broke several hours ago, the Vancouver Canucks have finally done something. They finally made a trade, and they made a trade with the Edmonton Oilers. But the Canucks have acquired Evander Kane from the Edmonton Oilers for a fourth-round pick. Now, a lot of Canucks fans are 50-50 on this. Some Canuck fans are happy about it. Some Canuck fans are not happy about it. And I find myself kind of in the middle. I'm 50-50 on this move. Obviously, if the Canucks were going to make a trade, Evander Kane was not at the top of my list of people who I wanted to acquire. That being said, back when Evander Kane was a Vancouver Giant, and this is going way back, way back, I was actually a big fan of his. As of, in recent years, not so much. But we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about this trade. It's something to talk about. Canucks actually made a move finally, and it only cost them a late round pick in the draft. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to look at some fan reactions. We're going to look at some Evander Kane stats. And we're just going to talk about the Canucks finally making a move and adding to their forward group, despite it being Evander Kane. But before I do that, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind me. You guys can check out Gassy Jack Art at GassyJackArt.com. He still has his end of season sale going on, so definitely get your prints while you can. You can check him out on Instagram as well at Gassy Jack Art. But if you want some of this artwork, find him at GassyJackArt.com. So let's go ahead and break down this trade. Let's look at the initial, reaction to the trade. Our good friend and friend of the show, David Quadrelli, first wrote about this early this morning around, 8 a.m. And he goes on to say, and actually it was Elliot Friedman who first broke the news, saying that there was a reported deal in the works between the Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. And then moments after that, Evander Kane himself took to X to confirm the news himself. So here's what Kane wrote. As my time with the Edmonton Oilers has now come to a close, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank the entire organization, my teammates, and the incredible community of Edmonton. To the Oilers ownership, front office, coaching staff, and trainers, thank you for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to be part of such a respected and passionate franchise. Your support meant everything, and I'll always be grateful for the chance to compete in the blue and orange. To my teammates, thank you for the battles, the friendships, and the memories. I'll always remember the playoff runs, the highs and lows, and the pride of going to war with a special group of guys. To the fans, thank you for embracing me and showing unwavering support throughout my time in Edmonton. Rogers Place was always electric, and I'm proud to have played in front of such a passionate hockey city. My family and I have built some incredible relationships that will last forever. With that said, I'm incredibly excited for the next chapter of my career as I join the Canucks. It's an honor to become part of an organization and team I grew up watching as a kid. Vancouver is a city that lives and breathes hockey. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to play in front of my hometown as I did many years ago as a Vancouver Giant with appreciation of Evander Kane. So that is the official statement from Evander Kane himself on X. Kane has 1 year remaining on his current contract, which will take up $5.125 million in cap space. So the Canucks now have taken on that cap space. They took on the full contract. There's no deferred money, or the Oilers didn't, retain any of his salary. They took on the full $5.125 million in cap space. Kane, 33 years old, missed the regular season due to injury, but tallied 6 goals and 6 assists through 21 playoff games with the Oilers this spring. Season before that, he scored 24 goals through 77 contests. According to Rick Dhaliwal of Donnie and Dolly, the return for Kane is a mid-round draft pick, which turned out to be a 4th-round draft pick. Obviously, this article was written earlier this morning. So yeah, and then it was updated, when the 4th round pick was officially revealed as the compensation for that. It was the Ottawa Senators' 4th round pick, originally acquired in the Vasily Podkolzin trade to the Oilers in exchange for Kane. And of course, as we just said, Vancouver is taking on Kane's full salary. So let's take a look at the official announcement from Patrick Allvin and the official comments from Patrick Allvin on this acquisition. Patrick Allvin would release this statement following the roster move. Evander is a physical power forward who will add some much-needed size and toughness to our group. Said Allvin, we like the way he wins puck battles along the boards and handles himself in the dirty areas in front of the net. Evander moves well around the ice and has proven to be a productive goal scorer in the NHL. We are excited to bring him back home to Vancouver, and our staff looks forward to working with him this coming season. So, and then it goes on to say Kane signed a 1-year, $2.11 million contract with the Oilers in January of 2022. In his first year in Edmonton, Kane scored 22 goals and 17 assists for 39 points with a plus 25 rating in 43 games. Former Atlanta Thrashers' 4th overall pick followed that up with an even more impressive postseason run, scoring 13 goals and 4 assists for 17 points in 15 playoff games. The 6'2", 218-pound winger showed his worth to the Oilers in the playoffs, earning him a 4-year, $5.125 million deal in Edmonton that offseason. The Vancouver, BC native tallied 40 goals and 32 points for 72 points in 118 games through his next 2 seasons, playing alongside 2 of the NHL's best forwards in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. After suffering multiple abdominal injuries in Edmonton's Stanley Cup run last season, the Oilers announced Kane would miss the start of the 2024-2025 season. There was a belief he would return sometime in the new year, but Kane would not be ready for game action until Game 2 of the opening playoff series against the LA Kings. And then it goes on to talk about this most recent playoff run for Evander Kane. So those were the comments, the official press release from Patrick Allvin on the acquisition of Evander Kane. We're going to look at something else that's once again written by our friend David Quadrelli of Canucks Army. And he just talks about, some thoughts about, Evander Kane and him now being a Vancouver Canuck. And I actually really like some of these points that Quads goes out and mentions. He says the same thing that I said earlier, that some fans love the idea, some fans do not like the idea. Some fans love the deal, pointing to Kane's snarl and scoring ability, while others are concerned about Kane's past reputation as someone not always well-liked in the NHL locker room. And we already know Canucks are trying to rebuild that locker room after the, pardon my language, shit show they had this past season in the locker room with, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, and how that locker room was just, absolutely destroyed. At least the camaraderie in that locker room. I don't know if adding in Evander Kane really helps that, but, let's take a look at some and how this move will affect the Vancouver Canucks. After this trade, some will say Kane becomes the Canucks' second or third best forward, and depending on how much you dislike EP40 and or Connor Garland, you might even put him at number 1. That's great news for Evander Kane, but not so great for the Canucks. The Canucks need to obviously acquire 2 to 3 forwards to pull off the miracle offseason that they hope to do so. Those forwards are going to be of varying quality. If Kane is the third best forward the club acquires, then this is more than a tidy piece of business. And Quads is absolutely right on that. But if a Kane trade and a Pius Suter re-signing is all this team has up its sleeve, then that's not enough. I completely agree. That made it clear they wanted to significantly upgrade their forward group this offseason. But a Kane trade, Pius Suter signing, or another move to shore up the center position, and a trade for a young premier player like Marco Rossi, JJ Peterka, That's an off-season restructuring that fans can get behind. And this point, we talk about, the Canucks paying market value for a cap dump. That's essentially what the Oilers are doing here. This is a cap dump, similar to Dallas unloading Mason Marchment's contract when they traded him to Seattle. It was dumping cap. That's basically what the Oilers are doing. They're dumping cap because they obviously need goaltending, and they wanted to get Evander Kane's $5 million off the books so they can go out and acquire a goaltender. So essentially, the Canucks are helping out the Oilers, which I know Canuck fans, you don't want to hear. Trust me, that hurt just uttering that sentence myself. And makes me kind of, hack a little bit. But, they did business with them. We actually got a forward in return, and it only cost us a 4th-round pick. Obviously, a lot of fans' reactions to this trade initial reactions is shock, including Quads himself, that Canucks gave up a 4th-round pick, and it wasn't the Oilers attaching a pick to Evander Kane, basically throwing us a pick in return, kind of sweeten it, like giving us a bit of a sweetener. They didn't do that, obviously, as, the Canucks were essentially doing them a favor by acquiring Evander Kane. Oilers decided not to throw a little something in there with it. They just wanted Kane off the books. And as we mentioned earlier, the Canucks took on the full salary of Evander Kane. And supposedly, there were 3 other teams that were reportedly in the mix for Evander Kane. And the Oilers very easily could have gone to any of those teams instead of the Canucks. But from what I've heard, Evander Kane wanted to come here. Like, he wouldn't accept the trade unless it was to us. That is what I'm hearing. That is the rumor. Take that with a grain of salt. The rumor is he wouldn't accept the trade unless it was to us. And that is why the Oilers traded him to us for a 4th-round pick, because that was his preferred destination. Now, this trade pretty much means the end of Brock Besser. And that's something that Quads goes on to talk about. I'll leave a link to this article in the description down below. You guys can check it out yourselves. But yeah, he basically says this pretty much marks the end for Brock Besser, even though we have known for a while now that Brock was on his way out. But now, by no means am I saying Evander Kane is going to replace Brock Besser, because there's no way that Evander Kane can replace a guy like Brock Besser. Now, at least when it comes to scoring, those days are well behind Kane. And who knows, maybe he'll be a little bit better here in Vancouver. We don't know. But, it looks like, Brock Besser this is officially the end of Brock Besser. And this Kane deal feels like the final nail in the coffin for Brock Besser. But there will be no shortage of suitors for Brock Besser on July 1st. So, if this is the end, then this is the end. Brock, it's been, a blast having you. And, at least at least the Canucks did something. Now, we're going to take a look at this trade from an Oilers perspective, which is not something we really do on this channel, but I thought, why not? Let's take a look at it through the Oilers tinted glasses. And they go on to say, after missing the entirety of the 2024-2025 regular season, Evander Kane proved that he could still be a difference maker when he returned to the Oilers in the playoffs. The big winger was very noticeable during Edmonton's run through the Western Conference, scoring 5 goals and 11 points in 15 games against the Kings, Golden Knights, and Stars. That wasn't the case during the Stanley Cup final. Kane scored a goal in Game 2, but was held off the score sheet otherwise. He took 32 minutes and penalties throughout the series, and his physical edge didn't have an impact against the Florida Panthers. All in all, the Canucks are getting an inconsistent player with considerable upside. Kane can be a force on the ice, a power forward who can come through in tight situations with big goals and who can tilt the direction of a game with his physical play. he can also disappear for long stretches at a time, especially when opponents don't engage with him. Now, here's something that I really want to bring to light. Kane brings a swagger and edge to the team that we haven't had since Zadorov left. And you can't deny that he brings that swagger and edge to the team. Obviously, you can't really compare him too much like Zadorov. No, Zadorov, big guy. Kane isn't that big guy, but you can't deny that he brings an undeniable swagger to this Vancouver Canucks team that was sorely missing last season after Zadorov signed with the Bruins. So you can't deny that. And also, you got to really think about it. Imagine Kane playing with Elias Pettersson. It could work. It may not work. Who knows? We're going to see if there's any chemistry between the two. My expectations for that are pretty low at this point, but that could always change once the season starts. Now, this is a low risk, high upside bet that the Canucks are making with Evander Kane. Kane will be motivated. He'll be motivated not to just put up solid numbers, but to be on his best behavior off the ice and in the locker room. Now, when it comes to the locker room stuff, we didn't hear anything about Kane in the locker room when he was with the Oilers. At least I didn't hear anything bad, at least within the confines of the locker room. Keep in mind, he was in that locker room with guys like McDavid and Draisaitl, and you would think if Kane stepped out of line, you would know that Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl would put him in his place. It's probably one of the few positive things I'll say about those two. But hey, if you stepped out of line or did something kind of like what Miller did, McDavid and Draisaitl would have been there to shut it down, and he probably would have been, kicked off the team or traded somewhere. So the fact that we didn't hear anything really makes me think, perhaps this will not be a locker room issue. For all his faults and concerning track record, the Canucks should be getting the best version of Evander Kane that we've seen in a while. And if it doesn't work out, if Kane can't score and is an absolute wrecking ball in the dressing room, we only got him for 1 year. And then he is a UFA next season. And the Canucks could very easily, ship him out at the deadline for something else. Obviously, the question is what team would want to take him on. That is, we'll cross that bridge when we cross it. But the team will have options, and all in all, this is a low-risk, high-upside bet for the Vancouver Canucks. Now let's take a look at Evander Kane's stats. Over the last several years, we're on to Puckpedia here. We're going to start from 2018 to 2019, his second season with the San Jose Sharks. It has been his highest or his best season, where he had 56 points, 30 goals, and 26 assists in 75 games. That was his second season with the San Jose Sharks, all the way back in 2018-2019. And then you had 2019-2020 with the San Jose Sharks. He had 47 points, 26 goals, 21 assists in 64 games. And then you had 2020-2021. Obviously, this was the pandemic-shortened season, where he had 49 points in 56 games, 22 goals, 27 assists. And then his first season with the Oilers, he had 39 points, 22 goals, 17 goals in 43 games. And then the next season, we saw a massive dip in his production. He only had 28 points in 41 games, 16 goals, 12 assists. And then the 2023-2024, he had 44 points, 24 goals in 24 goals, 20 assists in 77 games. So obviously he's shown that he can be at least 20 plus goal scorer in his career. Obviously his career high was 30 in his second season with the San Jose Sharks, all the way back in 2018-2019. And since then, he hasn't been able to hit 30. But he's been at least a 20-plus goal scorer, a 40 to 50-point player. That's okay, I guess. But you obviously want someone who has a little bit more production, a little bit more, goals. But, beggars can't be choosers. And Evander Kane is a Vancouver Canuck now. And yes, there's the hometown boy aspect of it. He's coming back home. We mentioned at the start that, he used to play for the Vancouver Giants. I was a big fan of his back then. Obviously, that was a very long time ago. And it's just interesting to see the Canucks take on Evander Kane and acquire him, take on his full salary. But you can't deny that he adds size and toughness to this team that this team has sorely been lacking. So that is one reason why I'm 50-50 on this trade. I'm okay with it for now. We'll see what happens. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Actually, before that, let's take a look at Twitter, or X, sorry, and just see the initial fan reactions for it. But we'll just go through some tweets, and see what the reaction is to this trade. There's one here. My boy, Captain Canucks, has reacted to this. Mentions some things that he doesn't like. Kane's contract. Obviously, that contract being $5 million or 5.13. Yeah, not so great. He's not a great character guy. Takes bad penalties, injury history. Then, obviously, Trev goes over some things that he likes: his grit and size, his experience, his production when he's healthy. He's a local boy, and his contract only has 1 year remaining. And that this is a move to help us try to make the playoffs this year. And then we're going to look at a quick recap from Canucks news summaries from Sakaris and Price, where they discuss this trade. And this is in particular them discussing it with Darren Dreger of TSN. And their little bit on Evander Kane. They talk about, he talks about, in a sense, in the last couple of days that the Oilers were getting close on trading him. His parents still live in Vancouver. He's always wanted to play for the Canucks. He was one of the many that crossed the line in what was said on the ice between the Oilers and Panthers. Officiating hockey operations had to get involved and tell the clubs to stop. There was a competitive market for him as well. So definitely, guys, check out Canucks news summaries. They have a lot of good stuff in regards to the Canucks. Just looking at some. Take a look at this. See if we can find some more reaction. We got Noah Strang says, say whatever you want about Blockbuster's game and how it might age, but few Canucks are so widely respected and liked by fans, media, teammates, and those within the organization alike. Excuse me. Sorry. Lachlan Irvin from Canucks Army goes to say there are 1,001 reasons not to put Evander Kane on your hockey team. This is a terrible call by Canucks management. Jabo, Vancouver, said, several days ago, or I guess almost 2 weeks ago, that he gets the feeling that the Canucks are going to make one of those, well, I didn't see that one coming kind of trades prior to the draft. And lo and behold, and we acquire Evander Kane from the Edmonton Oilers. Shoot the Puck mentions, at the end of the day, I do believe good teams need assholes on their roster. It's a good point. Rob Williams, Rob the hockey guy, mentions, anyways, I'm looking forward to a drama-free Canucks season. Ryan Henderson from Donnie and Dolly, the Canucks We don't go a penny over $4 million for a Pius Suter extension. Also, the Canucks, Evander Kane at his full $5 million. Absolutely. Cody Sievertson from Canucks Army as well mentions the Abbotsford Canucks won the Calder Cup 2 days ago. The organization couldn't wait one extra day for their Calder Cup parade to be over before incinerating the goodwill and kudos their farm had earned them. The narrative controllers keep doing a bang-up job on the PR front. Gabriel Morency seems to like the trade. He says, "I like it. I'm not sure what Canuck fans are bitching about. They can win an award for bitching is all they do. Canucks give up nothing and get a sandpaper guy to a team that's pillow soft." Looking at some more. There's Thomas Drance. Passes the past, says Canucks GM Patrick Allvin of Evander Kane, who notes that in his estimation, Kane has matured the past few years in Edmonton. This gives us and gives him an opportunity to see if this is a long-term fit, and adds that he's hoping that it is. And those are just some of the Brad Karp on X mentions Evander Kane is the exact player the Canucks need. He's also the last personality that Canucks fans want. What a move. And yeah, he's absolutely right with that. So that's just some fan reaction on X about this trade. Obviously, like I mentioned before, I'm 50-50. Part of me likes it, part of me doesn't like it. But I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm willing to see what happens. I'm also waiting for more moves because this is just one move. Canucks need to make so much more moves. They need, as we mentioned, 2 to 3 forwards. This is only one, so they need at least 2 more, and one of them has to be a center. If it's not Pius Suter, it needs to be a center. It could be Marco Rossi. Obviously people are talking about JJ Peterka. I mentioned on this channel Alex Tuch as a potential target. Obviously there's all this talk about, our goaltender situation. Who's going to be traded? Is it going to be Demko? Is it going to be Seelovs? Obviously, I mentioned it's not going to be Lankinen, so that's why I'm keeping him out of that conversation. It's essentially between Demko and Seelovs. Who's going to be traded? Can we trade Demko and get our second line center? Package him with something. I was on Canucks Uncensored last night, which, by the way, was an absolute blast. I had a blast with the boys, Jordan and Witten. Being on the Canucks Uncensored couch in the headquarters, I had a blast. It was great. I hope to do it again. But yeah, we all talked about, Buffalo as a potential destination for Demko, with their goaltending not being very great. And, we could possibly package Demko with our 15th overall pick, maybe a prospect or 2, and possibly get JJ Peterka. So I'm definitely leaning towards the JJ Peterka train. But let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this trade. What is your reactions to this? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all Canucks content throughout this offseason, as soon as we hear about trades, we're going to give it to you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. Find us on Instagram at The Line Change. Find us on X at Line Change Van. Find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, once again, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. But that's going to do it for this video. Evander Kane is a Vancouver Canuck. Once again, let's go Canucks. Let's keep building a better team. I want to see more moves. I want to see more moves. Let's get those forwards. Let's get that top 2 center that we need. And I'll see you guys in the next video.